This is a short video to explain some of the various settings and methods you could use on the DevExpress ASPxMenu to allow its drop-down submenus to render over the top of an embedded PDF object. A while back I created if you go to eagleware.net, click on the R&D, I created a little control I add to from time to time so I can remember how I did stuff or I've already tested certain code. First tab on here we got the ASPxMenu, display over a PDF, and I've got three controls that you can pull up. And then once you're in there, you'll see you got a little ASPxMenu here with one drop-down submenu box and an embedded PDF file inside the page. Then you also have this first setting is ASPxMenu is set to normal settings. The second control, ASPxMenu is set to render iframe elements equals true. And the third control is ASPxMenu set to light mode. Then we also have the PDF embedded in different ways. PDF is embedded with an iframe, with the embed statement, with an object statement, or as a Google PDF file. Down towards the bottom of this PDF file, it shows your normal settings, and it shows the code that the PDF is embedded with as an iframe, embed object without menus, or using Google Docs. It also shows various browsers that I've tested these settings with and how they work with the various settings. You'll kind of notice that Google or Firefox and Safari will not display with any settings other than Google Docs for a certainty. And to use this control with your own settings, you can load this window with various different browsers. Right now we're using Firefox. And hover over the drop down menu, and if it displays over there, great. If not, try another setting. And since we're using Firefox, none of these are going to work because Firefox will not render over the top of the damn PDF file unless you load it as a Google document. It'll display over a Google Doc. However, I don't like using Google Docs unless I have to. The resolution isn't quite as good as a straight PDF. And a few other reasons. I mean, it works if you have to use it. Now if we'll go to the render iframes for pop-up elements equals true is set on the ASPxMenu. You can test it the same way by clicking on the different embed types. And again, we're using Firefox, so none of these will work except for Google Docs. If we set the ASPxMenu into the equals light, if we set it for render iframe for pop-up elements equals true and render mode equals lightweight, then the ASPxMenu will display over a PDF embedded in an iframe, or if I remember right, all of these. So consequently, if I ever think that I'm going to have a website that's going to have embedded web pages, I use the ASPxMenu set to the light mode, lightweight. That creates a couple of problems. If you're using it in lightweight mode, some of the settings that normally would work in ASPxMenu do not work anymore. Some of the settings you're able to get them to work if you go into the CSS file for the ASPxMenu and modify it there, and not from the page designer like you would normally set settings with. And some settings have no effect at all, so you just have to play around with it. If you're using default ASPxMenus without custom themes, it's a little bit easier. You know, it's got a little paragraph here on that and stuff. In some instances, it's not desirable to run your ASPxMenu in lightweight mode because of rendering problems that you might have getting it to look exactly like you want. What I do in those situations is when I'm loading my page, I go run against a get browser name subroutine that goes out and finds out what browser the user is viewing the page with and what version it is. And then depending on what they're looking at the page with, I'll load it in an iframe or a Google Doc. And normally, currently right now, for the last couple of years of browsers, you only have to set Google Docs for Firefox or Safari. Everybody else can look at it as an iframe. Well, that might help a few people out trying to figure out how that works. Hope it helps somebody.